What's up, y'all? About to bring y'all a new video with some new info. So let's get into it. I got some notes, so I'm just going off my notes. I said reality is about time and survival. And it's not about this idea of fantasy and the expectation of that fantasy. I said not understanding why people think we have time. Life moves fast. Any older person will tell you that. Every day is a day of growth. No one in life is waiting for you at all. No one in life is waiting for you at all. And this is actually a good question. I wasn't about to read this, but I said, when does a man believe when does a boy believe he's still a boy or a man? Whichever he believes, he pushes out to the world subconsciously. I said, if you want to attract a beautiful woman or the woman you desire, you will have to be the exact opposite of her. So let's touch on that a little bit. We have to understand that at a young age, I understand this thing too, that most men, it takes time for them to mature. And that's the funny part, because I do believe women mature quicker than men. I do believe women mature faster than men. And the reason why is because I think they have more emotional intelligence than the average young dude. And when a girl, and she's supposed to have that, because that's actually her protection mechanism, is to make sure that she can find all the indirect and subconscious communications that indicate that he's a good fit for her. So as a man, you have to understand that every day you have to, just build your value. You have to build your way of thinking of life, and it happens really fast. Remember, we only have a year, because we're going by years. That's how we measure time. We go by months, we go by weeks, we go by days. And if you ask yourself as a man, what do you do in those days, in those hours, in those minutes, in that year? Each thing adds or doesn't add to your value as a man. And the way men are measured is through that value system. And it's quite different than women. Women's value system is not measured like the man's value system. But I think women get it a little confused, where they think men are supposed to value them the same way that women value men, which is, resources, financially, status, and all that. But that's how you just value a man. The way we value a woman is a total opposite way. It's more of emotion. It's more of what can you bring to a man. But like I said, it's not financial, or it's more like an emotional essence. It's more, how can you support him? How can you build him to a better leader? And these are things that are more detailed with the aspects of focusing on his career and him growing. Not saying that women shouldn't focus on their own selves and what they want and how they should have their own path and their own creation themselves, but I'm talking about specifically, not individually, but relationship wise, and how we see each other through a sexual dynamic. Everything changes once it becomes a sexual dynamic. I think it differs when it comes to just social, like, you know, if a woman's going for the same, I guess, opportunity as a man job wise, you're not really basing it on, you know, the sexual indicators of maintaining a relationship. You're looking more of the benefits and the values of like what any human should have, you know, hard worker, you know, focus, career driven, and all that stuff. So let me go through some other notes. I said there is only two powerful conscious beings living physically on earth, which is man and woman, right? I said we are sharing a experience and creating reality as we do it. And that's the interesting part, that there's only two beings on this planet, man and woman, and both of us are coexisting, creating reality. And these are the only two beings that any human has to deal with at the end of the day. I said men are operating more backwards in today's time because of TV. TV has brainwashed our men to live more in a dreamy, idealistic experience than a raw, true, realistic perspective which touches on truth and logic. Men and women get a fantasy or story / Disney fairy tale on how you will find a soulmate, and most people eat it up. But if we peel back some layers to reality, you will see there are some hidden truths hiding behind the curtains to how women operate that she most likely doesn't know about, and how a man operates and he doesn't know about, which should be how he expresses himself that he never tapped into. Men feel the effects immediately when they are not tuned into their masculine side. But what's interesting is women don't feel the effects or the consequence of her not tapping into her feminine side in the front end when they aren't playing that role. They usually feel the consequence in the back end, or in other words, later on in her life or experience. Men and women, so let's talk about that a little bit. All right, so what do I mean by that? Men, when you guys don't act as a man, reality will shove it in your face, and every man experiences this. If you don't act in the masculine, you most likely don't get what you want. Girls wouldn't be attracted to you. But if women don't act in their feminine, they usually don't get the consequence up front on her not acting on her natural state as a feminine woman, right? Because women have more of a softer approach to the truth, especially if you're more attractive as a woman. You get more excuses, people tolerate you more. But if you're a man and say you're either good looking or you're not, and you're not playing the role you're supposed to play, reality will show you that you're not that. Meaning, men, they would be like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You should man up. Why are you acting like that? Why aren't you on your purpose? Why don't you have a drive? And the thing is, most men aren't taught these things, especially at an early age. So they sit there and wonder, what the heck am I supposed to do? But like I said, if you study, which every man should study, you will understand that when you obtain a certain level of knowledge, that as a man, it's always your fault. You're always the cause to whatever you're not causing or causing. If you do bad in life, reality would tell you you're doing bad in life. People around you, as a man, would tell you you're not doing it right. But as a woman, the female nature gets almost catered to and almost gets a free pass. But the thing is, that free pass could only happen for so long until a woman actually feels the effect of that. A good example is this, and I wrote right here. I said, when women have options, it's because they have a line of men that want to have sex with her. But when a man has options, it's because he is bringing something better than just sex. Examples of that: masculinity, power, stability, money, charm, etc. And these are examples of what a man must bring besides sex. And you know, as a woman, like I said, if you're beautiful, and a woman's power is her beauty, is her body, there's not a lot of men chasing after you because you're charming, you got money, you know, you have stability and stuff. They're mostly chasing you because of the beauty. And when a woman has a lot of men lined up that she can choose from, most of the time she's not putting in the beginning those attributes. And that's why women have more options than men do. Because if I just put my body as a man up front, it's almost, you know, this is a raw example. It's like if I gathered a bunch of men in a room and there was one girl, and then every man got naked, right? And then I told that one girl, well, choose your guy. Which one do you want? Most of the time she's gonna be like, none. That's weird. This is weird. I don't want none of this. Why are they all getting naked? It's almost like she's disgusted by it. But if a woman is in a room and there's 5 women to one guy and all of them got naked, that one guy wouldn't mind that. And you know, that's just a natural order of things. This is how nature seems to operate, because the way I think personally, the way God designed it was for man to be infatuated with a woman's beauty. And it's almost like a perfect opposite. It's like we're infatuated for her beauty, her fertility, and a woman's attracted to a man's power, abundance, and resources. So it's always flipped. And when you can understand that men and women desires are flipped, stuff starts to shift. What do I mean shift? I mean, I'm not saying that a woman's beauty should be the only thing that a girl brings to the table, because that shouldn't be. Because if that's the case, then, you know, that's the only type of men that you're going to attract, is a man that only wants you for your body and, you know, your beauty. She should bring more. But what I'm also saying, on the other hand, that if men don't have these attributes in the beginning, and that's why I said men usually tend to get reality more harder than women, because we have a lot of expectations that a man must have in order to be an attractive man, right? And those things take time to build. Those things take years to build, months to build. And we shouldn't be mad that a female has it easier to attract, you know, mates versus a man does, because the fact that if you actually take your time and build yourself as a man, you do get the same attributes, say, a woman does get. but it happens later on in life. And if I could tell any young dude this, I would be like, hey, you know, a 18-year-old girl has more value than an 18-year-old man, because again, he's not bringing any value. He doesn't have any sense. He hasn't developed any patterns or consistency of doing something valuable for himself yet. And once you're 18, as a man, you feel like, dang, what do I bring? What can I do? But the thing is, if you work on yourself hard enough and you continue to be consistent, one day people will see that value out of you. And that's what mostly women will start to highlight in yourself. But as a woman, also, she should be working on the same thing, not just her beauty, because then you don't just want a man to approach you and that's the only thing you bring. And you know, most women, they don't get taught that. Most women don't get taught that, you know, you should work on your personality and your attitude, or, you know, being interesting in itself. Most women just get taught to just choose the right man, and, you know, you better make sure he respects you. But no one ever tells a girl to be interesting. No one ever tells a girl to bring something besides her body, right? But for men, we're always getting told we have to respect women, we have to be funny, we have to be charming, you have to protect her, you have to provide for her, and the list goes on. Because if I ask any girl what does she expect from a man, or like husband material, she would name all these lists. And if I ask a man what does he expect from a woman, it's mostly just beauty. Or, you know, if he's thinking a little deeper and that man has a deeper sense of, you know, what he wants, he will list some other things. But 9 times out of 10, it's not the same thing that a woman would list about a man, if you get what I'm saying. So moral of the story is, like, us men, you have to understand that even though reality is a little bit harder on you, there's nothing really else to do on this earth but to build yourself up. And I kind of see it like if you were playing a video game and, you know, you're starting at level 1. It's like, okay, even though level 1 sucks, and you may see someone else at level 25 work to level 25, and then when you get to level 25, you'll see someone at level 50, and when you see someone at level 50, you will get the rewards and you will defeat the characters that below you from level 50. But if you're level 1, you can't defeat an enemy that's level 25. But if you're at level 50, you could defeat that enemy at level 25. And that's how I almost see it, how, you know, men should operate. And there's no time, and going back to time, there's no time to waste. There's no time to sit down and think everything's fine, because again, even though, you know, in a spiritual perspective, we're all supposed to respect each other, look at each other equally, and, you know, love one another, there's still that human aspect of a woman desiring a high value man, and vice versa. There's always a man desiring a high value woman. And women aren't taught what is high value from a man's perspective in a relationship to a woman. They're always taught high value is high value, and 9 times out of 10 they're talking about the value of what society thinks a woman should have. But really, imagine if you are a beautiful girl, you're funny, you're outgoing, you're soft, you're a good listener, you're a supporter. You know, these are the small details that a man will be like, yo, if I have options, right, and I worked so hard to develop myself as a man, if I have options and I'm finally getting options as a man, why would I choose you? And if it's a mature man, he's not just gonna be like, oh, because she looks good. You get me? It's gonna be like, oh, like, how does she add to my life? How does she, work with me and what I'm trying to build? And most of the people I chill with, they're building something. Everyone's building something. Every man I know is building something, and it's all unique to them. I know artists, I know rappers, I know painters, I know people into music, I know people that are building businesses, I know people that are trying to develop their own unique thing. And when I talk to them, that those type of guys that are actually trying to build something, they're mostly single. They're mostly mingling around and dating. And it's because it's like they haven't met that one girl that would cater to them. And that one girl that would cater to them, most of the time when they talk about, well, what will make you choose, a long-term relationship with this girl and not this girl, they'll say up front, like, I don't mind being with this girl short term because obviously they're physically attractive. But the thing is like, a woman has to show more than that. And for a man, when I hear a woman talk, what makes her choose a long-term partner is not just sex. Because a man just, imagine he just brings sex, right? And the way I see it is like, men are more disposable. And we can see that through nature and, war. Men go out to war because they're disposable. And, we cater to the women because the way life works is we have to take care of the woman because they're actually the ones that bring life to us. So as a woman, instinctively she looks for a man that can bring something more than sex. And it's always something, again, back to the idea of more than sex. Hold on, my camera's about to die. And when we understand that men have to bring to the table more than sex, which we already know that's up front because it's shoved in our face as a little boy, women also have to understand they have to bring more than their beauty in their body. And but I'm not saying also you shouldn't bring beauty in your body as a woman, because that's actually one of as a man, one of the highest values that we do desire in a woman, because the exchange in there is that important. And if you can see with these lenses on, and it's a raw lens, it's a realistic lens, it's a truthful lens, it's innate into our DNA, this lens that I'm seeing. When you get to see it from this perspective, it helps you not build a false narrative on how a woman should operate. And most of the time, men, where's my paper? Men operate on a idealistic experience. And what do I mean by that? So it gets a little confusing here, because men actually believe in love a little different than women. In the forefront, women are actually just responding to survival, right? Meaning that no matter how much you love a girl, no matter how much you love a woman, she's still operating on survival. And when we get into long-term relationships, we get into marriages and stuff like that, we think as a man, because we've been given this lens or these set of goggles that once I confess my love to a woman, that's the end all be all, and it will be okay after that. But the way her body and her mind operates is she's always looking for the best. And when you can finally agreed to that ideology, well, it's not even ideology, let me erase that. When you can believe that that's the natural state she's operating from, you're always checking if you are the man you're supposed to be every day in that moment. And your language would change, your mannerisms would change, your movements would change. But when it comes to women, it almost seems like they're idealistic, but again, they're more realistic in their choosing. And us men, it almost seems like we're choosing from a logical, realistic point, but we're actually choosing from an idealistic point. And it's almost like, because I was just watching Forrest Gump, there was this, just watching Forrest Gump, you'll see how if you watch that movie, and I recommend watching it if you're trying to understand what I'm saying in this video, he has this idealistic view on the main character that's a female named Jenny. And he's always like, yo, I'm thinking about Jenny. Jenny's gonna be my wife. This is the one I want. And even though she left me, I know she's the one for me. And even when she comes back, she still leaves him when Forrest Gump wants to marry her. And that's the idealistic part I'm talking about. But her true nature is just going off of what she thinks is high value, of what she thinks is value and what she wants out of life. And she starts to end up choosing drugs, the most popular guys, the guys that are doing the most toxic things, because she's getting the thrill out of life. Idealistically, he's the right choice because he's a provider. He wants a family. He wants to build a future with her. But then her innate reaction is that she wants the best of the best in that moment. And when you finish the movie, you will see how the ending is. You'll be like, why does this dude keep chasing that? And it's because he's living that idealistic experience, which is actually a false fantasy that we get taught through movies. Even that movie teaches us that even you should keep chasing that woman that doesn't want you, because you may feel like you're in love with her, but the realistic question or answer is she really in love with you? And we always miss that step. Even in a long-term relationship, we always sit there and be like, this girl should love me forever. But the thing is, why should she love you forever? Is it because you're growing and you're bettering yourself every day? Because that's actually the right answer. She should be loving you because you are constantly growing and bettering yourself every day and showing why you're always the right choice. But we have this idea called love that blinds us. And then going into a little topic to the side, love is a funny thing. I think men should love their women, but they shouldn't be the same type of love that a woman gives us. Because when a woman loves us, or she says she's in love with us, it's different from a man when he says he's in love or loves a woman. And that's why we have to understand there's two beings on this planet, a woman and a man, and both of them think differently, act differently. And if we think they're the same in any type of way, you start to ruin the chemistry or the bond between them, and you start to mistake one for the other. Because most women, they want a man to love her like a woman loves him, or a man thinks a woman should love him like the man loves a woman. And, these are very complex concepts, but when you start to break it down on a very simple and basic level, you can start to see that there's a difference between, the way we interact with each other. And the more you start to understand, the more you don't have to feel like you're getting lied to or disappointed about if that girl really did love you or liked you in essence. And vice versa for women. You have to understand a man's world. And women don't want to understand a man's world because a man's world is not their way of thinking on how a man should love them. It's always their idea of how a man should love them. And that's the biggest problem I see between, dating and relationships. Men think women should love them the way they think, and women think men should love them the way they think. But that's not true. That's not reality. I love you the way a man's supposed to love a woman, and you should love me the way a woman should love a man. And they're different. And if everyone can come to an understanding of that, you will definitely have way better relationships with one another, and it's not confusing. You don't have these high expectations of why he should love you the way you should feel love, and vice versa. And when you start to understand this, you can love it properly. And when he doesn't do the things you think he should do, you start to check yourself as a woman. And as a man, if you start to love the girl and you ask yourself, why isn't she loving me the same way or giving me the same consistency that I expect from myself, then you should check yourself and go, maybe she loves differently, and this is the right perspective I should have on why she doesn't love me the same way, and then act on that. You're working with her at the same time she's working with you. And it gets in depth. But people don't want to face this truth because we always want to be right. We always want to have it our way. But once you start to ungrip that feeling of it should be the way you think it should be, then you can start to properly manage your life the way it should be. And let me remind you, once you turn 18, time flies. Like, your 20s fly by, your 30s fly by, and then damn near you're 40 already, and you haven't figured this out. And it's not gonna get any better if you just sit around just aimlessly trying to pray and spray and try to be like the type of guy. Because these videos are mostly for guys thinking, you know what, I'ma just get lucky and hopefully a girl likes me for me. That's about the end of failure. And if a woman does the same thing, I'm gonna find a man, and I'm gonna find me a good man, and God's gonna bless me with a man that that is for me, and that's righteous for me, and that's gonna handle me and take care of me the way I want to get taken care of. And that's also false, because then you're not really touching on the aspects of what the world is versus what you think it should be. So these are some things that all of us need to work on, and it takes time. And sometimes these pills of truth is hard to swallow, because remember, we all grew up with what was given to us and what we think it should be versus what it is. And what it is like, if I went outside and I was like, the sky's blue, but then you felt deep down in your heart that you loved pink so much, and then you're like, the sky's pink because I like pink. And that's how I feel like most relationships are operating from that perspective. It's not that the sky is pink. You may feel and want it to be that color, but is it that color? And when we're talking about relationships, that's literally how people operate relationships. And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't at all. Because if you operate your life like that all the time, you will never get a successful relationship. Remember, you're dating the opposite sex, so you have to figure out what the opposite sex wants. You have to figure out what a man wants. You have to figure out what a woman wants. And if you don't figure out what each of them want versus what you think they should want, how's it gonna work? So that's my little 2 cents in that.